Hello everybody, welcome. 138 MMA here, and I'm going to break down the entire UFC Vegas 70 fight card for you. We're going to start with the prelims, we're going to work all the way up to the main event. I'm going to give you the full breakdown of the fight, give you my pick, my prediction, and maybe kind of talk about some props and things like that along the way. Now, real quick, you can find me on Twitter and Tapology at 138MMA. Go figure, that's the name. And also, if this is your first time checking out the channel, hey, I appreciate you and I'm glad we found you. Glad you found us. Also, if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Super glad to have you. Love to hear your comments down below. I appreciate you guys taking the time to check this one out as well. Now, without wasting any more time, let's go ahead and get into the fight, shall we? Right after this.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, 138 MMA proudly brings to you the hottest picks in the world!
Banger on our hands here, folks. We have Garrett Armfield taking on Jose Johnson. Johnson 4-1 in his last 3-2 for Armfield. This is gonna be an interesting one because here's why. Johnson's 6 foot tall with a 74-inch reach, as opposed to the 5'6" with a 70-inch reach for Armfield. Now that's a long wingspan for a guy that's only 5'6", but that's like a 5'10" wingspan. So he's got a long wingspan, but at the same time, Johnson's just gonna be way taller. So in this one here, though, we have two guys that can both strike really well at different ranges. So for Johnson, his Muay Thai, very solid Muay Thai. He has a lot of power at range. When you're at the end of his punches or his kicks, the long range, Johnson's got the power there, does really well. He does have good kicks to all levels. He uses that Muay Thai well, especially when you're trying to head kick a guy that's 5'6" and you're 6 foot tall. Yeah, head kicks are not that hard to get that leg up there. So there's that. Now, on the other hand, for Armfield, he does have good boxing, and in the pocket, he's going to have a significant advantage here because with these tall guys, when you're trying to punch somebody really close, it's hard. You don't have a good angle, you can't extend your shots, and taller people, taller fighters tend to have better straight punches, and shorter fighters tend to have better hooks and uppercuts. Not always the case, but a lot of times it is. So, anyway, in this matchup, if that distance is crossed for Armfield, he's going to have the advantage inside. Before the distance is crossed, Johnson's going to have the advantage. Now, something I want to point out here, that's a lot of distance to cover to be successful because for Armfield to be successful, he has to cover that distance to get in the boxing range or to get into his wrestling. Because if you're shooting takedowns from clear across the cage, Johnson's going to be able to pick you apart on your way in, and you're just not going to be able to get the takedown because he'll stuff the takedown, or he'll kick you in the face as you're trying to get low because you just told him where it was coming from, and you're going to go to sleep. So that he has to be able to cover that distance in order to have success in either of the areas that he excels in. However, if he does, I think he will have success because the wrestling, the takedown defense is not that good for Johnson. Now, Johnson, he does have the ability to get back up. He does have a pretty good scramble game, but sometimes he gets content to play Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He tries to play it off his back, and we don't want that if you're trying to win fights in MMA. Now, that's fine in a grappling competition. That makes sense. That's what we're doing in there. But this is an MMA fight. And Johnson hasn't been as bad at this lately, but in some of his earlier fights, as you see, he's got 7 losses on the record. A lot of that comes from being held down. So he is dangerous off his back, and he is good in the scramble. So he can use that jiu-jitsu that he has to do well. Another thing to point out is in Armfield's 3 losses, 2 of those are via submission. So for Johnson to be successful in the defense of the wrestling with his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the option is there. I do believe one of them was a triangle, and Johnson's pretty good with that, long legs, whatever. So could be wrong on that, but I think that was it. Either way, so Johnson, he's got the advantage at range, like I said. Armfield's got the advantage in close. For me, when I look at this fight, who do I think has the more finishing upside? Well, I think that's Johnson. Who do I think has the better chance of winning a decision? That's 50-50. So for me, I think the pick has to be Johnson. And I believe he was an underdog at open. I don't know where it's at right now. I tossed a small flyer on him at plus 130. Last I saw, it was working towards being even. So not sure where we're at this current moment. But either way, I do think Johnson's going to get the win. I think it'll probably end up at even money or maybe a pick 'em odds by the end of the week. So for me, Johnson's the pick. I only bet him because of the value there. I'm not super confident in the pick, but let me know what you guys think. I'd love to hear it. and we'll see you guys. Women's bantamweights here. We have Ailin Perez taking on Hailey Cowan. Now, in this one, both ladies have the same record, 7-2. But in the last 5, Perez is 3-2, whereas 4-1 on the Cowan side. Interesting matchup here. Both ladies kind of new to their UFC careers. Cowan making her debut. Perez, she is coming off that short notice fight against Stephanie Egger. Didn't go her way, but didn't look that bad. She made a decent account of herself, better than a lot of people give her credit for. She was a massive underdog in that matchup, and she had some moments. Now, the height and reach, we have a bit of a height and reach advantage, 3 inches for Cowan here. As you can see there, 5'8", 69-inch reach, 5'5", 66-inch reach. But in the rest of this match, in skill for skill, I think Perez has the advantage. Why do I say that? Well, she's the more aggressive fighter, typically. She's going to move forward, throw her strikes, mix in the knees with her punches, do really well there, and then work in her wrestling and her grappling, which is where I think she excels in most matchups. On the other hand, Cowan, she's kind of decent everywhere. She wasn't originally a fighter, obviously. We know this about her. We heard the whole story on the Contender Series. She was a gymnast, very athletic. So I probably should have wrote that up there so I had another thing to write. But she's very athletic, and she does seem to be improving in each fight. Now, that's awesome, but at the UFC level, you don't want to be seeing a person that's still kind of learning some of the things that you need. Now, I understand that you can learn all the way through your career, don't get me wrong, but she's still kind of learning some of the things that I would feel comfortable saying that you should have before coming to the UFC. She had a very close fight on the Contender Series. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. I did pick her in that matchup, and she did pull it through, so awesome, good job on her. But for Perez, I think she made a good enough account of herself in that Egger matchup on short notice for me to pick Perez. So I'm going to take Perez. I also kind of just like her attitude. She's kind of a crazy girl, and I kind of like it. She's wild. So anyway, we're taking Perez here for the pick. She is an underdog, plus like 120 or so, I think. So there we go. We got a dog pick. Let me know what you guys think. Not mega confident, but Perez is the pick. This might be the fight that I am most excited for on the entire card. We have Nurullo Aliev making his UFC debut, taking on Rafael Alves. Now, I've been excited for Aliev to make his debut, and I did not think they would put him up in there against a guy like Alves, who's very, very talented, who's been fighting some of the better people in the division. This lightweight matchup has me very excited. Now, for Aliev, he is undefeated. He's 5-0 in his last 5 because he's 8-0 overall. 3-2 for Alves. Now, both of these guys are going to want to come forward and control where the fight's taking place. Both of these guys are going to want to walk forward, use pressure. That's what they do. Aliev, typically, from a grappling standpoint, Alves typically from a striking standpoint initially, but he does have good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well, so we're going to get into that. So anyway, this matchup is between two guys who are basically going to want to kind of assert their dominance, kind of butt heads in the middle and control who's gonna take over the forward pressure and put the other guy on the back foot. Now for Alves, we saw that matchup with that happen when in his fight against Drew Dober. Now Drew Dober is probably better than just about anybody in the division as far as battling you for your position. So when a guy like Alves comes forward, throws bombs, and starts cracking you, like he did against Dober, he took the dominant position at first, and then kind of gave it up as he started to fade when Dober's chin just held up like always. So Alves, he's been in there with some of the better competition in this division, and that's very important, and he's looked very good against that high level of competition. But his aggressive forward pressure in this one, he's going to want to go in there and look to take a guy's head off, just like he tried to do against Dober. That one didn't go well for him. But Aliev, even if he's got a great chin, which he does have a solid chin. We've seen him get cracked, and it hasn't really fazed him too much. But he doesn't have a chin like Dober, and that powerful striking of Alves is very good. Now, on the other side, for Aliev, what he's going to look to do, he's going to use that relentless Sambo-style grappling. We've seen him do it. He did that against Josh Wick in his Contender Series fight. Now, a lot of people have been down on Josh Wick this week. I stand by what I said in my Contender Series video. Josh Wick's a bad dude. Dude will come out there, sling hands with everybody. He's a tough matchup for most guys. He's very hard to put away. Aliev was able to put him away. Now, I thought it was kind of an early stoppage, honestly. I think Wick was doing the same thing he does in all of his regional fights. He was going to come back and start fighting a little bit more as the fight goes on. He takes some damage in fights. It's just who he is as a fighter. But Aliev got the stoppage. Awesome. It was a very good performance by Aliev. A little bit better than I thought it would be, actually, because I thought it was going to go to decision. Now, when Aliev gets that takedown in a matchup, what does he want to do? He He wants to trap the arms and go for ground and pound. He's not looking for submission. He's not looking to advance position. It's trap the arms, go for ground and pound. Typically from the half guard position, but, you know, he'll wrap the legs or go to the half guard, whatever he's got to do. But he's typically looking to trap your arms, ground and pound, especially if you can get an arm behind your back. Now, he does have very solid takedown entries as well. And on a guy like Alves, who does have that forward pressure, a couple of those takedowns might come just off of a big overswing by Alves. Now, Alves has good striking, so maybe he'll land that shot flush. Or, like I said, we get the duck under by Aliev, shoots that takedown, and puts Alves up against the fence even, or drags it into the mat right away. Now, he does chain wrestle these takedowns, so what he's going to do is if that first one fails, he's going to switch his takedown, go to another, keep going until he can get you to the mat, and he does a very darn good job of it. So, for me, Aliev with the takedowns, hard to beat. Alves with the striking, going to be hard to beat. This is going to be a very close matchup. The cardio, I do lean on the favor of Aliev. Why do I say that? Because Alves is going to come forward. He's going to put everything he's got in the first round and try to get Aliev out of there like he has done in most of his fights. If he isn't able to do that, or Aliev is able to control it with the grappling, I do think his cardio is going to hold up for the fight. So there's a big upside for Alves in this matchup in the first round. But I think Aliev is going to get the decision if it goes past that first round. Now, I don't think this is a fight where you want to be betting on it. This is a tough one. Unless you're seeing the value in the underdog and you want to bet Alves, especially if you want to bet Alves like first round KO, or just even first round, doesn't have to necessarily be a KO, maybe he gets a submission, doubt it, but maybe. If you want to bet Alves in the first round, I do understand the value there. For me though, because I think that Aliev is going to be able to land a takedown before getting knocked out, and I think he's going to be able to rack up minutes and be able to control the fight, I'm going to lean the Aliev side. Not mega confident in this pick. This is a tough one. I'm not going to bet this fight personally. I will not be surprised if Alves goes out there and just wrecks Aliev with the striking before he's able to start working those takedowns in. But I do think that the wrestlers tend to be able to control the strikers, especially when they're coming forward aggressive, because those takedowns are hard to stop, especially with a guy like Aliev who's that skilled in the takedown department. But let me know what you guys think, because I'm super excited for this matchup. Probably one of the matchups on this card, like I said, that I'm the most excited for. And this is going to be a heck of a fight. So let me know what you think. I'll see you guys in the next lightweight matchup with a late change of opponent. We have Joe Solecki taking on Carl Deaton III. Now, Carl Deaton, he is stepping in short notice for this matchup. He did have another fight scheduled for the same weekend. Just different promotion. Obviously, you take the UFC fight. So he canceled that other fight. Here we are. He's fighting Joe Solecki now in the UFC. Now, Solecki was originally set to face Benoit Saint-Denis. However, that fight fell apart. Denis was injured. So here we are. Solecki's taking on Carl Deaton III. For both of these guys, we have 4-1 in the last five for Solecki, 3-2 for Carl Deaton. Now, there is a bit of a height and reach advantage on the Solecki side. He's 3 inches taller at 5'9" as opposed to the 5'6". And he's got 3.5 inches in reach with the 70.5 over the 67. Now, I point that out because striking, a lot of times, you have to close distance to, you know, if you're the shorter guy, you're going to eat shots as you're coming in, right? Well, Joe Solecki has an advantage, but he doesn't have very good striking. He's just kind of average, okay? The better striker should be Deaton here now. So for Deaton, he's got decent striking. He does have some power in his hands. The problem is he leaves himself open for counters. Now, Joe Solecki isn't known as a striker, so will he capitalize on that? I wouldn't assume so, but it's there. It's something to take note of. The real issue here, though, is Solecki's a heck of a grappler. Now, he is a heck of a grappler against a guy that has, like, takedown defense. But Deaton does have the ability to get back up, and he's very good in a scramble. So, for me, this is going to be an interesting matchup. Can Solecki hold down Deaton, or can Deaton just get back up, work back to his feet? Because if he can, Deaton's got a shot here, and the odds are extremely wide in the favor of Solecki. I think he's like minus 600 or something crazy like that. However, the reason why is because of the grappling. Now, if Solecki gets on top of Deaton, he's going to be able to use that top pressure. He's going to start tying up limbs, grabbing hold of the wrist, you know, getting that wrapped around, whatever. And he's just going to grind it out. He is a low-risk grinder when he's at his best. And I know that is super boring to watch, but guess what? It gets the job done. So like I said, Solecki there is a reason he's the favorite here, and it's that grappling skill. Now, he is not as good off his back. So if in a scramble he does lose position and get put down on his back, Deaton's got a shot to land some ground and pound, maybe win the round that way. But realistically, over the course of 3 rounds, I think Solecki by decision is a safe pick. I don't think I'd bet it at the ridiculous odds that we've got here for Solecki. And obviously decision's the most likely outcome, so those odds are probably silly too. So the pick is Solecki, but not super confident in that enough to bet it at those ridiculous odds. Let me know what you guys think. Let's go to the matchup here. Charles Johnson making another appearance in the UFC. The guy's been very active. He's taking on Osbourne. Osbourne is 3-2 in his last 5, 4-1 on the Johnson side. So interesting matchup here. And as you see, I got a lot of stuff written up here because I spent a lot of time breaking this one down because this one was a tough one for me to pick. So we're going to go ahead and start with basically the way that these guys start. So Osbourne is a very fast starter, and that athleticism that he has kind of is what gets in there. On the other side, Johnson, very slow starter, but he's got good cardio, so he can go the whole fight. Basically, he treats every fight like it's going to go to the distance when he's fighting. So the way he fights, he keeps his cardio throughout the fight, but he starts off a little slow. Fast starter for Osbourne, very much an athlete. So interesting there, contrast in their styles of approaching the fight. Let's go look at the striking here. We have the Muay Thai of Charles Johnson, and it's actually improved a lot over his career. He does have solid Muay Thai at this point. His body kicks, those are his bread and butter. Those body kicks are money, especially against a guy like Osbourne, who, I mean, he's kind of a long, lanky-looking guy, and, you know, those body kicks, those wear on those lanky guys. Now, he also mixes his punches and kicks together, so I do like that. He'll set up those kicks with the hands, works in combination, and he can strike at every single level. Now, for Osbourne, the guy is best at his range. When he can play from the far distance, he also has some nasty body kicks, and Charles Johnson probably isn't going to like to get a body kick back from Osbourne. Osbourne also strikes in combination with fast hands, and he has some serious power when he can be at range. The problem with Osbourne is he leaves his chin exposed, and that is what has cost him in a lot of his fights. Now, when we look at the grappling department, Johnson does have good wrestling. He will work in his own takedowns sometimes. He does get taken down, but he also gets back up pretty well. His grappling on the ground, good with the submissions. He's got a few different options for him there, but he works in the ground and pound as well, and he'll kind of just use one to set up the other. Look for the sub. Nope. All right, hit the ground and pound. Look for the ground and pound. Okay, there's the sub. He does that very well. Kind of takes what he is given. Doesn't like force one or the other. You know, some guys do. They're like, okay, I'm going to finish this guy by arm triangle no matter what. He doesn't do that. He's taking what you're giving him. Now, for Osbourne, he does have some slick Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well. He has them choking arms, those long, skinny arms. He's very active off his back, throws up triangles, things like that. And he is a good scrambler. Whether he needs to get on top of the opponent or get back to his feet, he can do that. So in this matchup here, first off, I like the under in this matchup for 2 reasons. Better than the pick. I like the under. Why? Well, because either Osbourne gets the submission or the KO over Johnson, or Johnson KOs Osbourne because he keeps his chin up there. But you can't just eat shots from Osbourne because the guy's got serious power at range. And if it goes to the ground with that jiu-jitsu, I do think if Johnson plays around on the ground with him, I give a slight edge in the grappling department to Osbourne as far as finish ability, not necessarily just grappling in general, but finish ability. So I think either Osbourne finishes with either the knockout or the submission, or Johnson KOs Osbourne because that's how he loses. Now, I'm going to have to make a pick here. That's just how this works. I do like the under 2.5, that is. I want to pick Osbourne really bad because, and I think it's just because I hate Charles Johnson's stupid haircut, and I know that's so dumb, and I have a bad reason to pick somebody, but that haircut drives me crazy. Anyway, so I don't want to look at him, you know, in there with his stupid haircut anymore. That's stupid. Don't pay attention to that. But I want to pick Osbourne. I kind of like the guy as a fighter. He's fun to watch. Exciting, you know. Teacher, you know, he used to be a teacher, so you know. You're like, all right, this guy's a nice, wholesome little fella. But no, I can't pick Osbourne in this matchup. I just think that leaving the chin exposed is too much of a risk for me. I'm going to lean Charles Johnson. I'm not going to bet on either side to win. I am probably going to place a bet on the under. I don't know what the odds are on that. If it's under 2.5, I will play whatever I can get on that one as long as it's probably under -160 because I really do think that this fight doesn't go the distance because Osbourne doesn't like to go the distance. So let me know what you guys think. I'll see you in the next men's lightweight division. We have Victor Martinez taking on Jordan Leavitt. Now, for Jordan Leavitt, he's 3-2 in his last 5 fights, but he's been in the UFC for those For Martinez, this is his debut. He is 5-0 in his last 5 fights, but his debut in the UFC. Martinez, he looks pretty good in his Contender Series matchup with his boxing. His boxing is pretty solid, works in combinations, has that good head movement, and he does have a decent initial takedown defense, but it starts to slip after that. Now, those are some of the main things we've got for Martinez here, but on the Leavitt side, what do we know about Leavitt? We have a pretty good sample size in the UFC. We know he has good wrestling with a variety of different takedowns, single leg being his main thing, but he's got a variety of takedowns. On the ground, he's got good, smooth grappling. Let's put it that way. He does have a large toolbox. He can use all sorts of different weapons in order to control you on the mat, as well as seek the sub. And his transitions are up there with some of the better. Now, we saw him fight Pimblett, and a lot of people are fading Leavitt because of that. He fought Pimblett in the grappling, and Pimblett's a heck of a grappler. Say what you will about his striking, but Pimblett's a heck of a grappler. And let's be honest, Leavitt is not a striker whatsoever. So he was able to beat Patty in that first round by my estimations anyway, and he did a pretty good job. Now, Martinez is nowhere near the grappler that Pimblett is. So, for me, the grappling of Leavitt is pretty darn good. When we look at his striking, though, it's terrible. Terrible striking. He doesn't even really punch ever. I mean, he does, but, like, hardly. He just throws this weird, like, front kick thing that he does, and it's like, it's hardly a kick. But he just wants to get in close to you without taking damage so he can get you to the mat. And he is a quick starter, so that does help. He likes to look for that takedown early, likes to get the fight to the mat, but he does kind of fade towards the end of a fight. In like a third round or so, he will be a little bit on the tired side. This matchup, I actually have a side that I really am leaning towards pretty hard in this one. And I might look like a doofus if he goes out there and just gets knocked out right away, but I'm picking Jordan Leavitt, and I feel pretty good about it. I've got a 2-unit play on Leavitt here. I do think he can get Martinez to the ground, and I think if he does, I do not think that Martinez is going to be able to get back up against a guy like Jordan Leavitt. There is the knockout possibility. Martinez does have good boxing, like I said, but Leavitt is the pick for me. I'm thinking about playing the under 2.5 in this one too, because Leavitt makes quick work of guys on the mat usually, and if he does lose, it's probably because he just got wrecked by Martinez with the boxing. So considering playing the under 2.5 as well. I have no idea what the odds are on that, but yeah, let me know who you guys have. I'll see you in this flyweight matchup here. Jasmine Jasudavicius taking on Gabriella Fernandes. So in this matchup here, Fernandes making her UFC debut. She's 5-0 in her last 5. Jasudavicius 3-2 in her last 5. Now, in this one here, we basically have the kind of wrestler versus the striker. Now, for Fernandes, very active striker, solid combinations, kicks to all levels. She can strike well in the clinch as well. Jasudavicius is not a good striker, and that's just the way that it is. She will be outstruck in this matchup. When we look at the wrestling, Jasudavicius has pretty good wrestling, and she can rack up minutes on top. She could even damage someone like Fernandes on the top with the ground and pound, but she's able to rack up a lot of minutes. I am certain of that if she can get on top of her. Because Fernandes just doesn't have the best takedown defense, and she can be held down. She'll try to work off her back, and she is kind of dangerous off her back. I should have wrote that up there. She's kind of dangerous off her back at times. But I don't think Jasudavicius is the kind of person that's going to give up some of the position to posture up and throw bombs. I think she's going to rack up the minutes in that sense. So this is a closer matchup because basically wherever the fight takes place is where it is who's going to win. If it's on the mat, obviously Jasudavicius is going to be racking up ridiculous minutes of control time and landing enough strikes to just kind of work that. But if it's on the feet, Fernandes is going to be landing crazy shots, landing combinations, hitting Jasudavicius, piecing her up. For me, though, when it comes to strikers versus wrestlers, I tend to lean with the wrestlers. And let me tell you why. It's because they control where the fight's taking place. If a wrestler wants to get a striker down that just is that striker, they're a striker, they don't have wrestling defense, they don't have the counter wrestling, if you will, the wrestlers control where the fight takes place. I don't think Fernandes is going to be able to stuff the takedowns of Jasudavicius, or at least not very many of them. Even if she stuffs 2 or 3, I think Jasudavicius is going to realize I can't strike with Fernandes. So maybe she'll eat a few shots, but then rack out like 4 minutes of control time. Eat a few shots the next round, 4 minutes of control time. So for me, I'm going to lean Jasudavicius here. I don't think this is worth putting your money on, folks. This is a tough fight, and there is a real world where Fernandes wins this matchup just using her striking. But it's her UFC debut. She's going up against a girl with better wrestling and she doesn't have the best takedown defense. So I'm leaning Jasudavicius. Let me know who you guys have. I will see you guys in the next. Got another debut in this matchup here at lightweight. We have Trevor Peek making his debut. Now, if you haven't seen it, I do have a video breaking down the Dana White's Contender Series matchup he had with Malik Lewis. In that pick, I did pick Trevor Peek. That breakdown is very, very fun to watch. I actually went back and rewatched it before this just to like kind of look at my own notes. Is that weird? Maybe it is. But either way, if you haven't seen that, maybe go back and watch it if you want. I mean, it's not relevant anymore, but, you know, I picked it right, so whatever. But he's fighting Erick Gonzalez here, who's been around the UFC for a little bit now. Still trying to get kind of cemented in where he's going to sit in the UFC. He is 2-3 in his last 5 as opposed to the 5-0 for Peek, so a bit of a rough patch for Gonzalez, but he's had some tough matchups here. Gonzalez is 5'11 with a 75-inch reach. That is going to play a pretty good advantage in the reach department for him over Peek, who's 5'9 with a 70-inch reach. Now, when we break this fight down, Erick Gonzalez, he's got good striking, but he's willing to brawl sometimes, which can not always pay out well for him because his striking defense is But he does have good striking offensively. It's just the defense that he struggles with. He can pretty much just do a little bit of everything well, and the decent grappling and jiu-jitsu to go along with it. So wherever the fight is, Gonzalez just has the ability to do that at least well enough in most fights. Now, he's fighting a guy in Trevor Peek who the positives are very positive, the negatives are very negative. The dude's got powerful striking. In fact, he's knocked out or TKO'd every single one of his wins, which is 7 if you can't tell. The problem is his striking defense is usually just blocking with his face, and he wings wild punches and will throw naked leg kicks from way, way out. That if you don't see him coming, you're blind. So he has some flaws, but when he hits you, you're going to know about it. And if you don't remember, watch that Contender Series fight that he had. All right, Lewis basically showed us all this stuff, and then he showed us this. Then Peek showed us this right here, right at the end there. So he does have decent wrestling as well. He will mix his own takedowns in with his strikes when need be. His takedown defense is pretty good, and he gets back up. But the thing about Trevor Peek, this dude's a dog, and he's one of the most durable people on the friggin' planet. Watch that Contender Series fight. If you haven't done it, watch that fight. This dude, you got to kill this guy to get him out of there. I remember they're giving out the contracts at the end of the night or whatever, and Dana White, like, you know, wants to call Trevor Peek up, but he's like, yeah, Trevor Peek's on his way to the hospital right now because, you know, he's not going to, because of that absolute mugging that happened to him in the first round. So basically, Dana White's like, yeah, I mean, I don't know, somebody can let him know at the hospital or whatever. But yeah, Trevor Peek, super, super durable. Now, what does that say for this fight? I think Gonzalez is going to have some serious success in the striking, and that's going to be great for him. But the problem is, I don't think he's getting Peek out of there. And I think Peek's going to connect with something and put Erick Gonzalez lights out. Gonzalez isn't getting the finish on Peek. Peek's probably going to get the finish on Gonzalez. I feel pretty good about Peek here. The odds are starting to get away from us, so I don't know if I'd play it anymore. Maybe. If you can get it under -180, it might be worth a shot. Over that, it starts to get a little bit wild. But I think you pretty much have to kill Peek to get him out of there. And I think that as the fight goes on, he's going to get better because he just doesn't slow down. And, I mean, you could probably hit this guy with a truck, like driving 50 miles an hour. Doesn't matter. Dude will get back up. He's like, you know those Halloween movies? Michael Myers, the dude with, like, this knife or whatever? That's him. You hit him with a car, dude just, like, sits back up, gets up, and just goes after you. So Trevor Peek's my pick just because of his absolute dog. But let me know what you guys think. I think this is going to be a fun fight. Before we jump into this exciting welterweight matchup, if this video has been helpful to you so far, go ahead and hit like for me. I appreciate it very much. It does help me out a lot. If this video has been useful to you and you feel like you're getting some value out of this, maybe consider subscribing. That would be helpful for yourself as well as for me. It would help the channel grow, but it would help you always find my videos whenever they come out. And like I said, if this has been useful to you, you want to know where you can find the videos. So have me on your subscriptions page. It'll work out great for both of us. So let's get into this fight here. So we have yohan Lainesse taking on Mike Malott. Mike Malott is 4-0-1 draw in his last 5, 4-1 for Lainesse. Now, this is an interesting one here because I see a path to victory for both guys, and I see a very clear path to victory for both guys. Path to victory for Lainesse. Well, he's a fast starter with shit cardio. Oh, shoot, that might get me flagged. Either way, he's a fast starter with poor cardio. He's got very powerful striking, super awkward style. Like those, I don't even know how to describe this striking, but it's just awkward. But he's very powerful, and when he lands, he can put guys out, especially over a guy with poor striking defense like Mike Malott. He does well offensively, but he gets hit a lot. That chin's exposed. Everybody's heard it. Mickey Gall was tagging up Mike Malott. Mike Malott was getting hit by Mickey Gall, who is not a striker. But yohan Lainesse, super awkward style, telegraphs the heck out of his punches. But either way, if he lands, it's going to put you down. The problem for Lainesse is he gets backed up, and like I said, his cardio fades. So if Mike Malott can weather that initial storm, he is the more technical striker, and he does have good counter shots. Even though he does get hit, he still has a good counter shot. We saw him put out a few guys with that, Mickey Gall being one of them. But if this fight gets to the mat for any reason whatsoever, Mike Malott takes the favorite position very quickly. He's going to be the much better fighter on the mat. I do believe that. He does have very crafty submissions. He has a decent-sized toolbox, can work in whatever he needs to work in to get that win. So, do I think Lainesse can get, or Lainesse, I don't know how you're supposed to say it, can get the win over Mike Malott? Yeah, if he does, first round knockout. Do I think Malott can get the win over Lainesse? Yeah, just survive that first round, back up Lainesse, get him on the ground maybe, then Malott has it. So because of the multiple paths to victory for Malott, I'm going to pick Malott here. I don't know that you can really bet it anymore. The odds are pretty ridiculous. However, if you'd gotten to the line early and you'd picked Malott and got him in when he was like, what, minus 160, 170, something like that, not terrible, especially because you can cover your bet. You can save yourself by playing Lainesse round 1 KO. Because if he's going to win, I assume that's it. And those odds are probably super favorable because, I mean, he's an underdog already. So Mike Malott's a pick. I'm just going to leave this one off my slate. I'm not really willing to put this one on there, especially when there's some other spots that I really like in this. If you haven't seen those, you know, watch the rest of the video. It's there. But I'm going to take Mike Malott. Let me know what you guys think. I'd see you in the next fight. Flyweight matchup here is one that a lot of people have been talking about because it's the return of Tatiana Suarez, and she's taking on Montana De La Rosa. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give it to you a little bit ahead of time that I'm a big Montana De La Rosa fan. Don't know why. I just like the girl. She's a fun fighter. Always down to scrap with whatever style the fight is. She's good enough everywhere. So I am a big Montana De La Rosa fan. Although I did pick against her in her last matchup. Felt bad about it, but I did. Stylistically, it was a rough one for her. But in this matchup, she's fighting a Tatiana Suarez who's coming off a massive layoff. And how is that going to play into this? We'll see. So for De La Rosa, she has 2-2-1 draw in her last 5 fights. Obviously 5-0 for Suarez because, well, she's 8-0, so she's undefeated. Typically, Suarez is going to be the bigger fighter in her matchups, but she's taking this one at flyweight, and a lot of times she fights at strawweight. Well, in this one here, we're looking at the 5'7", 68-inch reach for De La Rosa. So she does have a couple of inches in height and reach. That could play an advantage for her. I mean, Suarez is one of the highest level wrestlers in any of the women's MMA, honestly. She has very high level wrestling. She has great top pressure, and she has some nasty ground and pound. The only thing that we're all wondering is, what's up with that layoff? How is that going to affect her? She's had a massive layoff, like 4 years, and it's health concerns. She had, what was it, like neck issues, was it like an ACL or something with her leg. But she's had a crap load of injuries. And also, where's her cardio at? What do we know? We don't know any of this stuff. This is all just a big question mark here. When I look at this, all I see is just a big old question mark. So for me, I look at Montana De La Rosa, and I know what I'm going to get from De La Rosa. She has good wrestling. Not on Suarez's level, but good wrestling. Decent boxing, you know, not top level, but decent. She has some good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well, and she does look for the submissions off of her back. She is seeking those out. Realistically, Suarez should win. She's my pick. Don't get me wrong. But I'm not going to bet it because those odds are stupid. For a person coming off of a 4-year layoff with some serious injuries that have kept her out of the cage, don't be betting. Don't be throwing her in a parlay. She's not going to help your odds very much. There are much better places to play these things. If you haven't seen it, check out my Bellator video. There's some places to play there as well. If you're just going to do a stupid juice parlay, you can throw her in there with all the minus 900 favorites on Bellator. But either way, I don't think that that's a safe play for the simple fact that we just don't know. There's question mark here. We don't know. I'm going to be rooting for Montana De La Rosa come Saturday, but I don't think she wins. Suarez is the pick. Rooting for De La Rosa. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Are those injuries going to be an issue? Is her cardio going to hold up? How is Suarez going to look after this long 4-year layoff? I'm really looking forward to hearing what you guys think. Do you think she's going to come back and be the top dog right away? Maybe she will. But let me know. It's a safe assumption. They all really don't want me to spend a lot of time on this matchup. Lower level heavyweights. And it wasn't always the case. Because for Augusto Sakai, he's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Was pretty good at one point, but he's had 4 KO losses in a row. And that brings up some serious durability concerns. Now, for Don'Tale Mayes, 2-2-1 no contest. That one no contest was to Hamdi Abdelwahab when he lost the matchup, but Hamdi popped for steroids, so Mayes gets the no contest on the record, so now he's 2-2-1. Big height and reach advantage here for Don'Tale Mayes. Now, it doesn't look that big at first. You're like, 3 inches in the height, but the reach is 4 inches. That's a big difference when you got a guy like Sakai who is a pretty good striker, realistically. He's probably the better overall striker than Mayes. He's got steady output as well, but Mayes does have good boxing and uses that long, rangy jab and that reach really well. Mayes does have the judo. He can use it defensively to stop the takedown, or he can use it as a toss and get on top of a guy and use his cup to put the pounder on someone. That's weird to say. But anyway, with Sakai having these durability issues, don't bet this fight. If you're betting this fight, what is wrong with you? You are a degenerate and you have a problem, and there are helplines that you can find. So call them, please. This is a bad fight to bet. This is a sloppy heavyweight fight. But I'm going to say Don'Tale Mayes probably gets the win, and it's probably by knockout just because I don't trust Sakai to have a chin on him anymore. I feel like he's getting knocked out by a cold, wind from the north. I feel like Sakai's just getting taken down, or knocked out, by just about anything. So I'm going to take Don'Tale Mayes. Let me know who you have. Let me know if you're a degenerate and you've bet on this fight. I would love to hear it. And if so, I have some links I can send you to help you out with that. And I'll see you guys in the next one. We found ourselves in the co-main event of the evening. And I just want to remind you guys, if you're enjoying this video and you haven't yet done so, go ahead and like the video for me. I appreciate it very much. Subscribe if this has been helpful. More for your benefit than mine, but it does benefit me as well. Now, let's move into this co-main event. We have Brendan Allen taking on Andre Muniz. Now, in the matchup here, this is a good co-main event. 4-1 in the last 5 for Allen, 5-0 for Muniz. This matchup is interesting because both guys are pretty darn good in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I would say Allen is the better Jiu-Jitsu fighter in most of his fights. Not this one. He's going up against a guy with very high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu who is a submission monster. We saw him snap Jacare's arm. We've seen, the guy's slick on the ground. And he also has pretty good control. Now, I know the Uriah Hall fight was an odd one, but typically Muniz is pretty darn good on the ground. Brendan Allen, live in most fights on the ground, but in this one, I just don't see him getting submission over Muniz. However, when it comes to the striking, Brendan Allen's going to be the better striker. Why do I say that? Well, because he's got pretty good striking. It hasn't always been that way, but he does have pretty good striking. Now, can he be hit? Yeah, he lets himself get hit a little bit. Muniz isn't much of a striker, though. He can strike. It's an MMA fighter that can strike. He's not Jordan Leavitt, who just doesn't strike, but he can strike. Brendan Allen's going to have a big advantage because he strikes well at different ranges, whether that's all the way out, partial, kind of closer, working boxing range, or all the way in, striking in the clinch. He does pretty well striking from any range. Now, Muniz does have decent takedowns, and if he gets this fight to the mat, I do think Brendan Allen's going to be willing to play in the jiu-jitsu realm with Muniz. And if that's the case, I think Muniz gets this one done. So, Allen, super live for an upset. It's another fight I don't recommend betting unless you've got really good odds on Muniz, or if the odds continue to blow up super big and you're going to take Brendan Allen to get the finish with like a knockout or something wild, because I don't think he's getting the submission. But I'm going to take Muniz. I feel pretty all right about it. There's just not a ton of spots I really like on this card, but there are a couple I do really like. This is not one that I really like, but I will take Muniz. Let me know what you guys think. Let's move right along to our main event, because we are in the main event of the evening in the light heavyweight division. Now, this is the last reminder. Go ahead and like this video for me if you found this useful, and let's go ahead and break down this fight. So, we have Ryan Spann, 3-2 in his last 5, taking on Nikita Krylov, 3-2 in his last 5. Spann's going to have a height and reach advantage. He's 6'5" with an 81.5-inch reach, as opposed to 6'3" with a 77.5-inch reach for Krylov. In this matchup, Ryan Spann is just naturally an athlete, so he has that going for him. Now, Krylov should be better just about everywhere offensively. He's good wrestling. He is probably the more technical striker. And if he can get on top of Spann, he is the better grappler. He's a good grappler on top. On the bottom, I'd still say Krylov is a better grappler. So there is that. But Spann does a couple of things really well. One of those things is just his natural punching power. He hits like a truck. And the other is that he has very good front chokes. His front chokes, whether that be a Darce, whether that be, a guillotine, whatever, front chokes are there for Ryan Spann. He's got a very tight squeeze. He's a very strong fella. So when I look at this matchup, I see the good wrestling from Krylov, but I see a big drawback for Krylov is that he leaves his neck exposed when he shoots for takedowns. And these front chokes, as we've said, are a real problem when you're fighting a guy like Ryan Spann. He does have a very good front choke. Now, another issue I see is even though Krylov is a more technical striker on the feet, he does leave his chin exposed at times. And I don't know if you noticed, we have a powerful striker over here in Spann. So there's two very clear possibilities for Spann to win this fight. Knock out Krylov, get the choke. I think that these, after the first round, these possibilities drop, some. After the second round, these possibilities plummet. Now, can Spann still get the knockout? Can he still get the choke? Yes, he can still do that. But after round 2, I don't think that he's got very much of a likelihood to do so because I think his cardio is going to fall off, especially if he just started training, like he said. Now, we also got to break down this real quick. Do we think that the reason Ryan Spann looks so good against Dominic Reyes is because Dominic Reyes is done? Or do we think it's because, like Ryan Spann said, he just started training and all of a sudden he's beating guys that are going to a close decision with John Jones? Now, do we think that Ryan Spann's the real deal? Or was Dominic Reyes done? For me, I lean more that Dominic Reyes is just in a pretty bad spot in his career right now. And I don't think Ryan Spann's as good as a lot of people think he is. I think Krylov should win this fight. I'm going to pick him to win this fight. I'm not going to bet him. Unless the odds are still close after round 2, you can live bet him there. I don't think that they will be if Krylov's still in the fight. I think he's going to be winning impressively by that point. Maybe I'm wrong, but I do think so. I do think that Krylov should win the fight short of giving up his neck or leaving his chin exposed and getting cracked in the first or possibly the second round. So, like I said, Krylov's the pick. That's how I have it. I think he's just a better fighter overall. Let me know who you guys have. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate y'all very much. Check out the Bellator video. It should be popping up on screen, or maybe it already has. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see you guys in the next fight card.